This is CBC Here and Now.
Total intimidation, except when he said to me at one point, I wanted to bury the hatchet, and I kind of construed that as being in my head.
Not surprised. He's known Eddie Joyce for decades.
And today, this longtime Tory is calling out Joyce's bad behavior.
He could do practically what he wants, and nobody there would not vote for him.
Good evening, I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Debbie Cooper. Tonight, more on the accusations of bullying and harassment against MHA Eddie Joyce.
Joyce has been tossed from Liberal caucus while allegations from 2 female MHAs are being investigated.
Today, a man who has worked with Eddie Joyce for decades is weighing in.
Here Now's Megan McCabe has been following the story, and she joins us live now from our newsroom. Megan, what have you discovered?
I've been talking to someone who says his dealings with Joyce go back over 3 decades and that Joyce has been a bully for all of it. Don Downer is a longtime Tory who says he first started working against Liberal Eddie Joyce on the West Coast back in the late 1980s, then worked a little more closely with him over the past decade when Downer chaired Western Regional Waste Management. Downer says Joyce used his bullying tactics at a board meeting a couple years ago when he tried to replace Downer with a new chair.
So he's got this individual with him. And he says, well, I have a right as Minister of Municipal Affairs to do whatever. Well, they practically turfed him out of the room. I'm not kidding you. It was funny on one level, very tense on another. Anyway, it was a terrible, intimidating experience for the board, for me, for anybody else that was involved.
But Megan, as you mentioned, Downer is a Tory. Is this just a man with an axe to grind?
To be fair, Don Downer and Eddie Joyce definitely don't like each other. But Downer says when he heard Sherry Gambin Walsh and Tracy Perry yesterday, he wanted to add his voice.
Let me just say that I hate seeing this in any politician. I would call out anybody who uses those kinds of tactics. And this is, by the way, the worst kind of partisan back-scratch politics. That's my term. And it has to do with the fact that if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. All parties do it. All political parties are into it. But Mr. Joyce is the epitome of it.
Downer says that plenty of politicians are strong, rational, and effective without falling into bullying. Eddie Joyce called me this afternoon to say that he can't do an interview, but he suggested some people for me to speak to, including the current chair of that Western Regional Waste Management Committee who backs Joyce. Anthony and Debbie?
Thanks very much. That's our Megan McCabe live from the newsroom this evening. Well, we now know who will be doing the investigation into the complaints against Eddie Joyce.
Yeah, it's up to the Commissioner of Legislative Standards. You ever hear of it? Well, here now Peter Cowan explains.
It's a Friday, and that means the House of Assembly wasn't sitting today, so a little quieter up here. But behind the scenes, work has been underway to launch this review into Eddie Joyce's behavior. It's going to be the Commissioner of Legislative Standards that does this review. It's not a person you normally hear from very often, but he is the person who's in charge of reviewing the conduct of MHAs. And now he's going to have to look into the allegations that have come from Sherry Gambin Walsh, accusing Eddie Joyce of harassing behavior. And we've also heard from Tracy Perry, who says she's going to be issuing a formal complaint about Joyce's behavior as well. We don't know exactly what the behavior was that caused these complaints, but that'll now be for the Commissioner to investigate. The House is going to look a little different on Monday when the politicians come back and we get into another round of question period. First of all, Eddie Joyce is going to have a new location for his desk. It's going to be moved over to near Paul Lane, who's the other independent MHA. And the PCs who led the charge on these allegations last week, well, they're going to have a new leader. This weekend, they're going to choose either Chess Crosby or Tony Wakeham to lead the party. Paul Davis will be out, but because neither Wakeham nor Crosby will have a seat here in the legislature, they'll be able to set the direction, but they won't be the ones asking questions. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Does the culture of politics make a different workplace? That's one of the questions we're asking tonight in 15 minutes. My conversation with a communications professional who's also worked at Confederation Building.
I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. I'm in for Ryan Snodden. Another lovely day and temperatures above seasonal, but we do have a pattern change coming. I'll explain what's ahead for the weekend coming up.
The product was phenomenal. He was the best barber we ever had.
A lot of people are going to miss him. Really, really miss him.
He was the only barber here at the time.
He's given haircuts to prime ministers and presidents. How people in Happy Valley Goose Bay are remembering. The amount of time workers are off the job due to injuries remains at an all-time low. That is according to statistics from Workplace NL. The lost time incident rate due to workplace injury or illness is 1.5 per 100 workers, which is one of the lowest rates in Canada. By contrast, the number of serious injuries rose to 10.5 per 10,000 workers. For the fourth year in a row, hearing loss on the job continued to rise. And there were 25 fatalities, 5 accidental and 20 from work-related chronic ailments.
Memorial's Grenfell campus cut 3 high-level jobs to save money. The Director of Student Services, a manager with marketing and communications, and a research coordinator lost their jobs this week. Grenfell had to cut $1 million from its operating budget due to a reduction in funding from the provincial government. An official with the college insists the job losses will not impact students.
On one hand, of course, we all miss and lament very respected individuals within our organization. On the other hand, there is a realization that we have this challenge. And I'll also say, added to that, is a determination to see that as an organization we respond and all pitch in to provide, as I said, the type of service that we know that this institution is well known for, and that's being student-centric.
The man who was once accused of being the so-called Halifax sleepwatcher will soon find out whether his movements will continue to be restricted in this province. Barry Sinclair appeared in provincial court today. Lawyers made final submissions in a peace bond case filed against him. Police believe Sinclair will commit a serious personal injury offense against a woman. He's been living in St. John since his last prison sentence ended more than a year ago. Sinclair has been on an interim set of conditions since then. Judge Mike Madden will decide next month whether the peace bond will remain in effect for another year.
A taxi and a motorcycle had a close call in Kenmount Terrace in St. John's earlier this week. Laurent Evans had a GoPro camera strapped to his helmet. He was taking in all the gorgeous weather on the bike when this happened. A Bugden's taxi cut him off after blowing through a stop sign.
It was just nerve-wracking, like I didn't know if I was going to get hit or a stopping time or not, and the taxi driver just didn't care. He just kept going like nothing happened.
Evans contacted the company and the broker apologized to him earlier today. Evans works as a delivery driver and he says he's seen a lot on the roads, but he says he's never seen anything like the poor attitude towards motorcyclists.
When I was riding a motorcycle, we used to get like stuff like that, us water bottles, anything, just in general, like people cutting us off left, right, and center, and even like at red lights, people flying right through them.
While the St. John's Edge are on the edge of elimination, the team is 1 loss away from the end of their first season. This after last night's loss to the London Lightning at Mile 1. Last night we told you about a war of words between the Lightning star player Royce White and the hometown crowd. White is accused of hurling homophobic slurs at St. John's fans earlier in the week. Well, it seems last night's game was no less dramatic. Despite his team's win, Royce could be seen yelling at fans and at the deputy commissioner of the league after fouling out of the game.
I think they're incredible works of art and works of archives.
Quilts that tell the personal stories of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in the First World War have been taken down and boxed up. What will happen to the Piece by Piece quilt show? That story later on Here and Now.
Noticed it, and a lot of people did notice it, and I was referred to often as an Antichrist anyway, so I thought, well, I'll fit in very well with this house.
The house with the creepy number of the beast gets an exorcism of sorts. Later on Here and Now, why 666 Southside Road has gone through a name change.
I am the MHA who lodged the formal complaint against Minister Joyce.
How can you be a bully if you're dealing with everybody in the House of Assembly?
We need a whole cultural change in the way we do politics. It absolutely has to shift. I did experience an incident in the fall, and I'm going to now submit a formal complaint and follow the process.
Well, what a week in provincial politics. Liberal Cabinet Minister Eddie Joyce was ousted from Cabinet Wednesday after a formal complaint of harassment was made by another Cabinet Minister. Next, Joyce was kicked out of caucus for outing the complainant, Sherry Gammon-Walsh. And the final revelation was yesterday when PC MHA Tracy Perry claimed she was also harassed by Joyce and would be filing a formal complaint. Well, to talk about the week that was, we are joined by Ronalda Walsh, a former communications director with the provincial government and now with her own communications company. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks for having me here, Debbie.
So what do you make of what transpired this week?
Well, it's certainly a week in politics that people in Newfoundland and Labrador won't forget. And it's unfortunate, a negative situation, you know, but hopefully people are going to learn from this and maybe there's some change in the wind.
Well, let's talk about maybe there'll be some change. First of all, we don't know exactly what the allegations are against Eddie Joyce, but generally the two complainants have said it's harassment and they wouldn't go much further, bullying of sorts. Has people's tolerance for bullying changed?
Absolutely. You need only look to the Me Too movement and how much change has happened within the last year or two. You've seen people speaking out more. You've seen careers impacted and somewhat destroyed. You also see people looking more to manage their reputations, whether they are the accuser or the accused. So there's definite change, and there's more of a zero tolerance approach, which I think there should be. It's time for change.
On a sidebar, Dale Kirby, Minister Dale Kirby, released an email, or it was determined that he had this email sent to all of the Liberal caucus, and some interpreted that as a form of bullying. What about the optics of that for the government?
It is a challenge for the government to get over that. I think if maybe he had his time back, maybe, you know, hindsight, you wouldn't send that email, because it certainly sends a communications message that, you know, I'm going to shake everybody till I find out. And that's not necessarily the message that you want to send to your team. You are a party. You're supposed to be governing as a whole. And when you're looking to pick people out and isolate them even more when you have a contentious issue, that just makes the divide even deeper.
You mentioned you're supposed to be a team, but on that point, you've worked with government, you work in private sector right now. I'm just wondering, though, if the political environment is different because, for instance, it's adversarial. You've got a party whip. You've got ministers and MHAs fighting for position within that team. Is it really the same as in the private sector?
There are similarities, but there are differences as well. In terms of the tolerance for this kind of behavior in the private industry, it wouldn't be accepted as much. Now, this is new, and even in the private industry, there's a process that has to be followed, just like the Premier is implementing here. There's going to be an independent review. The private sector would do its due diligence as well. What the outcome would be dependent on what those findings would be. But in terms of the behavior that you see on television in the House of Assembly in question period, that would be considered something that wouldn't be absolutely tolerated in private sector. And that behavior in the House of Assembly dictates what's happening in Central Block and West Block. So the staffers, the public service, take their lead from the MHAs that are elected there. Now, I'm not saying that the public service are all like that, you know, confrontational, that kind of thing. That's certainly not the case. But they're supposed to be setting an example, so let's set the example across the board. Your opening clip talks about change, and the leader of the NDP said, you know, the culture has to change. Absolutely, culture has to change before you stop seeing workplace harassment or discrimination. And unless the environment changes, those policies that people are investing in, they become those things collecting dust on the shelf because nobody's incorporating them to make sure that they are actually implemented and realistic.
I just want to ask your thoughts on this point, that we understand, our sources tell us that there are at least 2 male MHAs who allege harassment, but they haven't come forward, they haven't filed any complaint. How important is it for all of those who feel they have been harassed and bullied come out? Male and female. Tracy Perry said she would like the House to be a welcoming place for men and women.
I think regardless of your gender, because there is more than male and female, regardless of your gender, if you are feeling discriminated against or harassed, come forward. If you have, you know, if you're comfortable to do that. You know, you talk about, you know, the minister and MHA Perry. They had a tough week, as they said in their clips. They're considering more than just coming forward with a complaint. They're considering their families, their careers, being in the spotlight. All of these things, particularly for women, are factors. But I think more and more so, as you're talking about harassment and discrimination awareness, they become factors for consideration of everybody. But if you're going to choose to not come forward, there are implications for that too. Some people would call that turning a blind eye, just, you know, not bringing it forward. But if you're coming forward, you have to be comfortable with it and know that you have the supports necessary to see that through. It's not for everybody. You have to make that personal choice for yourself.
Ronaldo Walsh, there's a whole lot more that we could be talking about, and including a communication strategy that we're going to see from government when the House reopens on Monday. But we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Noticed it, and a lot of people did notice it, and I was referred to often as an Antichrist anyway, so I thought, well, I'll fit in very well with this house.
An exorcism of sorts for the ghostly house near the Waterford River. Coming up, Glenn Payette dives into the paranormal at 666 Southside Road.
Well, our Ryan is still away today. He's going to be back on Tuesday, though.
Right, so tonight we have meteorologist Colette Kennedy from the CBC Weather Center.
Thanks, Debbie and Anthony, and it is my pleasure to be filling in for Ryan. You know, we're seeing what's kind of a typical spring-like pattern continuing, which is we get into an area of high pressure and milder conditions for the most part, and then the showers come back, and then we get a reprieve, and then another system comes in bringing in some wet conditions, and we're on the good side of things for the most part. I know breezy out there today, but in terms of temperatures running 7-8 degrees above seasonal in most cases, but we're heading into the weekend with the next system moving in, and I'm going to explain how that breaks down. But first of all, just looking at some of the highs today, Labrador City at 9 degrees, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, you guys into the double digits with the high of 11, Deer Lake at 12, Badger at 12 as well, and St. John's unofficially, these are the unofficial highs. Actually, the temperature I think climbed a little bit further than that, but we'll call it 15. Just looking at kind of a summary of what we've seen today, as we've got one system that's moving away, we're kind of in between, another one comes in into the weekend, it sticks around for a couple of days, of course, and then we get into a break and then yet another. So we're on that train as we're seeing that kind of pattern with the trough and the jet stream coming right over us here through Atlantic Canada. So I just want to take you through as we go through the nighttime hours. Still some of those winds quite breezy. Today much from the south. This is more of a southwesterly flow as we head into the overnight hours, but you can see just the showers kind of trying to creep up. Still a little bit of drizzle. This morning, a little bit of drizzle. There'll be some just off the coast. And then looking into tomorrow, what happens as we're rolling, this is early morning hours, but watch as we're starting to come up, 8 o'clock, probably seeing at least a bit of drizzle along the Avalon Peninsula. We've got that risk for it, okay? But most of the morning actually looks pretty good. It's into the afternoon hours as I roll forward again. It's going to be more of a consistent shower that we'll see in those winds turning to the southwest, and then more of a southerly flow we get here. And yes, further up into Labrador, this is snowfall that we are talking about and that easterly wind. So that flow coming in off the water, and that's going to help enhance some of the snowfall still coming down through that area. Your forecast for tonight, it looks like this. Some light snow, Labrador City -2, Nain at -10, Gander 3 degrees, still some of that drizzle potential tonight. St. John's, the low of 3, and Marystown going down to 3 degrees as well. And then a look at tomorrow, another day where temperatures are above seasonal. Average high at this time of year is just 7 for St. John's, so 16 looking pretty good, almost 10 degrees above where we should be above seasonal. Even Corner Brook with the wet conditions looking at 13, and an average high there at this time of year is 9. Labrador City right on the freezing mark there, and that's why you could actually get into a little bit of mixed precipitation through there. This is just a look at the first half of the weekend. We'll take a look at what's going on for the second half and how long this system is going to kind of linger with the inclement conditions when I come back.
And thanks so much to Colette. That's meteorologist Colette Kennedy at the CBC Weather Centre in Toronto. Well, now to an update on a story Here and Now's Glenn Payette had for us 2 years ago at Halloween. What was it like living in a house with the devilish number 666?
Well, that was the story then. Well, because of that number, believe it or not, the house now has a new address. Here's Glenn's update.
Let's begin around Halloween 2016.
Now, what'd you think when you found out it was 666?
I never really put much thought into it, but when we had a few friends over for house welcoming parties, they were a little anxious and scared, I think, especially one of my friends, Richard Barrett. Basically, so we went out and bought a Ouija board, as you can see right here, and we decided to test it out here the past couple of nights, but no luck so far. Same, no issues while sleeping either. I think 2 for 2 nights without any spirits so far.
Spirits didn't drive Coombs and his roommate out of the house, but they don't live there anymore. Charlie Annison bought the house 25 years ago and still owns it.
I was looking for a home near a river or on a river, and I looked at all the rivers in St. John's, and this is the one I found. And I bought it for that purpose. It was right alongside a beautiful tree area. Later on in the summer, you'll see this. You wouldn't be able to see across the street because of the leaves.
When he bought it, it came with the infamous 666.
I noticed it, and a lot of people did notice it. And I was referred to often as an Antichrist anyway, so I thought, well, I'll fit in very well with this house. I went to St. Bon's, so I was a Catholic. I was a choir boy at the Basilica, an altar boy. And there were things that made us nervous. I certainly didn't bring that with me when I bought this house. 666 didn't mean much to me. And I don't think it's harmed me.
But Annison knows the 666s could scare off potential buyers.
I'm going to be here for a long time. You know, this is my, hopefully it'll be a place where I'll retire. And another thing too, I might need to sell it, and I think 666 probably would have been not good to sell a house for 666, and I think my property value increased by about $100,000 by just removing those numbers.
Annison went to the city and had the address changed. So what was once 666 Southside Road is now number 2 Waterford Lane. Waterford Lane runs perpendicular to Southside Road. And Annison decided to be a little bit devilish himself when he got rid of the 666 that had been on the house.
As I was taking it down off the house, a friend of mine came by in a pickup truck. I've known him for years, Liam Halley, and he asked me what I was doing with it, and we chatted and we had a couple of laughs, and when he left, I dropped it in the back of his truck, and he went off with it. And 2 or 3 days later, he brought it back.
But the story of the number isn't done. When Annison and I were talking, he brought me behind this shed to show me where he had put the number. But when we looked, it was gone.
So I don't know what happened to it after that. Maybe it went down the river, I'm not sure.
Glenn Payette, CBC News, St. John's.
All right, so Glenn's moving from court and justice to the paranormal. It's Glenn, but it's a kind of like elevators, you know, then they take out the 13th floor.
Yes.
So it goes 12, 14.
Yeah,
so
and
14,
hotel
exactly,
floors.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Bad luck with numbers. Welcome back. Here and Now has brought you extensive coverage about the problem of suicide in our province over the past several months. Tonight, a woman with expertise who has helped train others to identify warning signs wonders why the province has cut her funding. I met up with Tina Davies earlier in Torbay to talk about the foundation that she set up in her son's name. Her son took his own life. So how did Richard's Legacy Foundation come to be?
Well, my son Richard was 18 and he took his own life in our home on December 9th, 1995. He hung himself, And yeah, that's why it's called Richard's Legacy.
As you started to put together this agency, what was your hope? Because you actually trained people on how to identify people who might be suicidal, right?
Yes, I am an assist and safe talk trainer.
Right. You better say what assist stands for.
Sure. Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. And the workshop is 2 days, and it teaches people to recognize people who are having thoughts of suicide, to ask them about it, and to listen to their story of how they got there to having suicidal thoughts, and to keep them safe for now.
And you found out some news this week that you aren't very happy about, namely that the government is not giving you, the funding's gone, right?
Well, I had applied for the community addictions and mental health funding and wasn't allotted any monies. And then with the announcement with the 21 or 22 associations that are getting the multi-year funding, which I'm extremely happy for, and they're all very well deserving. You know, I just thought, I have to say something. You know, I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed that we couldn't get a little bit even thrown our way. I mean, I travel all over the province to do these workshops. I speak to communities, and I'm not the only trainer that does it, but I am with Richard's Legacy, so that's, you know, and that's not all we do. I mean, we do many, many things. I go to the homes when people, sometimes the police have just left, and I walk in, and sometimes I'm with those families for a day or 2 days. You know, and we talk to the schools. I've appointed a director, Megan Francis, who lost her dad and her brother all within 4 or 5 weeks of each other. She's from Burin Peninsula.
Now, I know you've worked in the Burin Peninsula, and Here and Now has done many stories about the suicide problem down there. We were actually there for a major announcement by the Premier that they were focused on a suicide prevention strategy. How do you measure that with an announcement that you're not going to get funding?
I don't know. I was invited to the press conference on the Monday in Grand Bank on Friday before, but of course I couldn't make it. My phone goes steady, but I don't see a connection, you know, and it's just really disappointing. I tend to think that because our foundation is so small, it's mostly just me, and since December it includes Megan now, that we tend to get overlooked a lot. But I do believe that the work that we do is really important. It's really important. It's life or death.
And it's obvious that Tina's work means a lot to her. And she mentioned helping out in Burin when there was that spate of suicide. So how much money, Anthony, are we talking about?
Well, she was paid per workshop, and she told me that they're about $800 to $1,000 each. And generally, every year she does about 8 to 10 of them. So we're talking about less than $10,000 per year.
I think they're incredible works of art and works of archive.
What will happen to the quilts telling the personal stories from the First World War? Let's meet our young athlete of the day. This is Jack Mercer from Conception Bay South. Jack is 6. He's a member of the gold team at Timbits T-ball.
And Jack also plays soccer and enjoys swimming. Congratulations, Jack. You are our young athlete of the day. Happy Valley Goose Bay is mourning, but also fondly remembering a local barber. Norbert Way, better known as Bert the Barber, passed away this week at the age of 82.
Now, many ahead passed through his barber shop, including George H.W. Bush and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. But he's best remembered by those he worked with and those who sat in his chair on the street named after him. Here now's Jacob Barker has that story.
The Grand River Barbershop, there's always something to chat about. This week, it's a subject that cuts close.
He was the best barber we ever had in Goose Bay.
Down there, yeah.
Bert the Barber's shop is across town, tucked away on a street named after him. That's where Henry White got his start.
When you was in that location, hid away for many, many years, no sign. Finally we said, well, Bert's Loop shouldn't have no more problems.
Before he had his own shop, 23-year-old Norbert Way from Germany was giving haircuts on the Air Force Base, packing with him memories of World War II.
He was only a young boy during the war. He told me all about that.
He had some tough days in the war.
Hard days, yep.
He told me he saw Hitler, he said.
White opened his own shop in the 90s. He brought along with him skills he learned while working beside Bert.
This is why men gets a haircut at the barber shop.
You get a good neck shave?
Neck shave, it blends in with your haircut, eh?
He brought some memories, too.
Me and he had a few drinks together. Many days we shut the shop down at 3 o'clock.
Those that swing by Henry's for a cut remember Bert, too.
Good and friendly, good stories, and he was a good barber, too. A lot of people are going to miss him. Really, really miss him.
He was so efficient, so proficient.
Well,
at what he did. Hey, Henry.
Yeah, top. He was the best.
He was the best of the best.
And old George Bush, he was up here on a fishing trip. He came up here one time.
Full of stories and full of character, burned into the minds of those that would pass through his doors.
Fondest memory was the cigarette hanging out of the mouth. That's how I envision him today. That's how I saw him always. The cigarette was always there.
He said he never inhaled. I was like, Burke, how could you never inhale? Like you're smoking, right?
Bert, a barber to be remembered for a long time to come.
Bert the barber, never ever forgotten. He just won't be.
Yep, rest in peace, old buddy. What'd I say?
Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
It's a charming story because barbershops are such great gathering places for yakety men.
You're so personal with somebody, and boy, what great memories they have of him. Not everybody is well remembered like that.
Yeah.
So
plus our colleague Jacob, I think, got a free haircut.
He's looking good. Well, let's go back now to Colette Kennedy for a look at our weekend forecast.
Thanks very much, Debbie and Anthony. Just another quick look at some of the readings. Unofficial highs, temperatures in many cases climbed another degree or two through here, but throughout Atlantic Canada, those temperatures really flirting with the 20-degree mark back towards parts of Nova Scotia, and St. John's got a little bit warmer, way above seasonal again. Seasonal high for St. John's this time of year, right around 7 degrees, so not quite 10 degrees above that, but looking pretty good. So one system pulls away. That's why we had some of that drizzle this morning. Gusty winds this afternoon on the backside of this, but as it moves away, we just get a bit of a break. Tomorrow actually starts out not bad, but into the afternoon, we're going to see the precipitation starting to come up again. So that's why I would say if you do have some outdoor plans, you want to kind of get that out of the way or plan those earlier in the day tomorrow than those showers. And in central Newfoundland, it's more going to be a consistent rainfall that we'll be seeing. This is in Saturday all the way towards Sunday morning, still looking at that potential. It's almost like a large trough, in fact, so we could almost connect these two systems, but that's pulling away, the next one coming in, and it's unfortunate, but it hangs on. We've got the jet stream kind of pulling right through here and just anchoring these and bringing them right through. We're going to see this right through the weekend. In fact, even into Sunday night, still wet conditions as we head into Monday. And you have a look at the weekend through St. John's, 16 the high for tomorrow, 12 on Sunday. So those temperatures coming down, and you see the risk of showers sticking right through. So we get a bit of a break between the two systems. The next one that's going to come in next week, but it doesn't really give us a break in the chance for seeing those showers. And into Monday, Tuesday, you'll notice the temperatures will be coming down. Yes, getting back to at least closer where they should be for this time of year. But by the end, by Friday, the end of our long range, we're seeing those temperatures really rebounding. And you can see towards Grand Falls, Windsor even, possibly those temperatures really popping up towards 20 degrees as we get a little further into the, it's always into the long range forecast, but even tomorrow at 17. Not too bad there if you can get some of those sunny breaks. Back to you, Debbie. Anthony.
That's Colette Kennedy with the forecast for us this evening. Now to an update and a good ending to a story that we've told you about here on the show. Piece by Piece, a traveling exhibit of quilts, now has a new home.
Yeah, the project tells the very personal stories of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in the First World War. Here now's Jeremy Eaton has the details.
Today is an auspicious day for a lot of people who've been working since 2014 from the beginning of this project to bring it to what is a very happy conclusion for us. The collection belongs together, and the chapter in our lives is coming to an end because we have found a suitable owner to take them on. We are gifting them, and that announcement will come later, but the quilts will not be hung together. They will be dispersed by the new owner into various places where people can still go. We're just happy that it's a happy ending, because when we started the project we thought we'd only have to manage a handful of quilts. 17 is a lot to find permanent homes for. So we're excited, we're thrilled.
My great uncle joined up. He was one of the first 500, and then 2 years later my grandfather joined up.
Try and preserve them for as long as humanly possible. You realize that they're made out of cloth, and cloth has a tendency to have its own shelf life, but we're going to do the best we can to keep them in the best possible condition.
Dad, if the fighting gets worse, please be careful. I don't want to lose you.
They're incredibly important. The quilts are beautiful works of art, but they're also documents in and of their own right. Each quilt is a separate document, but then each square is another document. It contains information of either a printed, a photographic, or a visual nature, and that qualifies them as incredible archival resources. I can see pictures of individual blocks ending up in the works of other people, whether it's a term paper, a book of someone else's, a TV show. So I think they're incredible works of art and works of archive.
Now, Bert Riggs wouldn't say exactly what the plan is for the quilts, but says Memorial will make an announcement just before Remembrance Day. It is a practice known in government circles as March Madness, the last-minute rush to spend departmental funds before the end of the fiscal year. CBC News has obtained information about a major bulk purchase of smartphones by federal bureaucrats that's raising eyebrows. Dean Beebe has the details.
The huge smartphone order, worth more than $21 million, was sent to Bell Mobility in late February, with one important condition. Everything had to be delivered by March 31st. The reason? Because federal departments wanted to spend all their leftover money before the end of the fiscal year. Use it or lose it, because budgeted money not spent goes back into general revenues. It's known as March Madness and was banned by the previous Conservative government as wasteful. Shared Services Canada, the government's IT agency, defends the giant order, saying departments need to replace their aging Blackberries with new smartphones. But Conservative MP Tony Clement isn't buying that, saying it's an ongoing cultural issue within the government. He was once president of the Treasury Board under the Harper government and says he saw too many examples of public servants rushing to buy themselves TVs and other hardware before the books closed. The return of March Madness comes as the Parliamentary Budget Officer warns that the federal deficit will be even higher than the Liberal government has said. Dean Beebe, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Toronto van attack has raised many questions, including, is there a way to stop people from using vehicles as weapons? It turns out there could be a high-tech answer to that question. Stephanie Mateus explains.
Bastille Day in Nice 2 years ago, then the Christmas market in Berlin. Then in 2017, even more places where vehicles were used as weapons. Stockholm, Times Square, London Bridge, Paris.
The attack in Barcelona.
La Rambla, Edmonton. Now Toronto. Carleton University prof Jez Littlewood studies attacks like this one in Berlin. Littlewood, whose specialty is international security, compares this to the most deadly of all the vehicle attacks, Nice, where more than 80 people were killed. He says in Berlin there was braking technology on that truck that stopped the driver from doing more damage.
Now, of course, it doesn't stop in its entirety a collision, but the automatic systems sort of prevent speed, and when it senses, or when the cameras and the sensors work together to prevent a collision, they in one sense prevented the driver conducting a far more deadly attack.
Since 2012, the European Union requires trucks over a certain size be outfitted with braking technology to prevent collisions. After the Stockholm attack, the Swedish government started working with Volvo to develop automated vehicles. Other companies also promote the safety aspects of automated braking systems, like this one with a tongue-in-cheek approach, portraying the distraction of spotting Ryan Reynolds.
Can you give me a warning? Sure. Warning, here comes your ticket.
We're moving in a direction predominantly for public safety reasons, and safety reasons, not security reasons. But there are knock-on effects here which will assist us in some shape or form in these types of horrendous attacks where a vehicle is used deliberately to target pedestrians.
Researchers agree technology alone isn't the answer. In fact, some of that technology on vehicles can be overridden so that cars revert back to being like the ones that we're normally used to driving now. So some cities are looking at other solutions, like trees narrowing streets, or these, a lower tech option to barricading overcrowded sidewalks. Stephanie Matisse, CBC News, Toronto.
The host of a current affairs show on TV Ontario has been cleared of allegations of sexual harassment. Steve Paikin says the past 11 weeks have been pretty difficult, and he sends his deepest thanks to all who believed him. TV Ontario says a law firm interviewed 21 witnesses about allegations made by a former mayoral candidate. The investigator found the allegations were not substantiated. The investigation is now closed. In New Brunswick, officials fear major flooding as the St. John River rises to 10-year highs.
Putting up barricades for roads that are underwater. We want people to respect those barricades because going through them, you don't know what's underneath the water. The roads might be giving way, so we have absolutely no idea of the conditions of the roads. Also, if the barricades are close to the river, you could easily be swept out to the river because the currents are very, very strong.
Many roads and bridges have already been closed. Water is expected to rise to more than 8 meters, levels unseen since the last major flood 10 years ago. Nearly 100 homes have been affected. The city has emergency shelters ready. Rising water is also a problem in other cities across the region.
Remember, you can watch Here and Now while you're on the go. We're broadcasting live on YouTube, and you can also catch past episodes on demand. Go to YouTube and subscribe to CBC NL. Now, just ahead, of course, it's Friday, your weekly birthdays and anniversaries. Welcome back. Well, it's a major first in the world of robo-engineering. A Japanese company has created a real-life transformer.
A robot that turns into a sports car that can even carry passengers. The creator admits it's more of an expensive toy than a useful tool.
And for now, the technology will just be used for the entertainment industry, but perhaps another Transformers movie, perhaps in the near future, made a lot of money. That is, for Transformers people, that is pretty cool.
And Japan, of course.
No surprise. That's amazing. I want one.
Yeah.
Yes. Saying no, I can't have it.
Time now to find out who's celebrating birthdays and anniversaries this week.
Best wishes to Reg and Mabel Legg in Mount Pearl, who will celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary on May the 2nd. And a happy 60th anniversary to Earl and Jeanette Feltham in Glovertown. Their anniversary was on the 23rd. Happy 66th anniversary yesterday to Isaac and Mary Morgan in Seal Cove, CBS. Amelia and Bill Nelson in St. John's celebrated 67 years of marriage on Monday. And a happy 55th anniversary to Murdock and Grace Hiscock in Fortune, who celebrated on Tuesday. And it's a 55th anniversary for Anne and Dennis Flynn from Forteau. Congratulations.
Happy anniversary to Laurence and Bessie Harris, who celebrated their 61st anniversary on the 22nd. Anniversary greetings to Irene and Clifton Loder of Summerside, Bay of Islands, on their 72nd anniversary this week. A big happy birthday to Annie Doris Peckford, who's celebrating her 100th birthday in Lewisporte. Happy 57th anniversary to Bob and Dorothy Yetman of Southern Bay, now in Clarenville. Happy birthday to Herbert Vincent of Corner Brook, celebrating his 90th birthday coming up on Sunday. Happy 60th anniversary to Cyril and Clara Troke of Paradise on the 30th.
Happy anniversary today to Harvey and Mary Luffman from Harbour Grace, who are celebrating 56 years of marriage. A happy 50th wedding anniversary to Delano and Doreen Rose in Clarenville, also celebrating today. And another golden couple celebrating as well today. Happy 50th anniversary to Ronald and Shirley Holden in Mount Pearl. Happy 93rd birthday to Mary Ryan in Chapels Cove, who celebrates on Tuesday, May the 1st. Happy birthday to Jack Brown in St. John's, who will celebrate his 95th birthday on Sunday. And a happy birthday to Elizabeth Croft, originally from Aquafort, now in Paradise, who turned 91 yesterday.
Happy 50th anniversary to Louis and Mary Noseworthy of Mount Pearl. Best wishes to Tony and Rita Blanchard of Irishtown, Summerside on their 50th anniversary yesterday. Congratulations to Philip and Josephine Woodford of Holyrood, who will celebrate their 58th wedding anniversary on the 30th. Happy 93rd birthday to a very special lady, May Vincent of Newtown, Bonavista Bay, celebrated on Tuesday of this week. Congratulations to Patricia and Gordon Vivian on their 54th anniversary. Happy 95th birthday coming up on Monday to Rufus Hutchings, originally from Cowhead, now in Mount Pearl. Birthday greetings to Maud Rose of Hermitage, celebrating her 90th birthday on Sunday.
And a happy 95th birthday to Vera Stacy from Point May. Happy 66th wedding anniversary to Annie and Russell Avery from Deep Bite. Their big day is on Sunday. Wishing Blanche and Roy Comden in Pasadena a happy 58th wedding anniversary. And a happy 58th anniversary as well to Zach and Enid Daw in Long Pond. Happy anniversary to Norman and Lottie Childs from York Harbour, who celebrate 57 years of marriage tomorrow. And also celebrating their 57th anniversary tomorrow, Harvey and Lorna Boone in Campbellton. Congratulations.
And congratulations
to all
of you. Once again.
We're done.
Yeah, what a week it's been.
Went right by. See you on Monday.
Enjoy the weekend.